Hello, my name's Hayden. I'm a landscape and nature photographer based in Essex in the UK. So I thought we'll test out a new camera today. I picked this up recently from a charity shop. This is a Bilora Box. It's a box camera from the mid-1930s, produced in Germany. So I thought we'd just take a quick look at the features on this camera. The main thing I like about this box camera is that there's tripod sockets for both portrait and landscape orientation. Quite a lot of box cameras don't have that feature, so that's quite handy. We've got two apertures here, so we've got f11 and f16, and that's adjusted with this lever just here. We've got a bulb and also a single shutter speed of a 50th of a second, although I think that's around 30th of a second due to age, etc. On the top of the camera is our viewfinder for portrait orientation, and on this side we've got our viewfinder for landscape orientation. Shutter release levers just there, and just here's a socket for the cable release. So when I bought this camera from the charity shop, I was quite surprised to find an exposed film inside. It was an old Agfa-Colour film, so I decided to develop it in black and white chemicals, and I managed to get one image off the roll, and I'll show you that just now. So I've got the Bilora Box loaded up with Kentmere 400 today, and we're going to be pushing that to 1600. I came out here the other day and I did a little test with Kentmere 400, shooting it at box speed, and I developed it in Rodinal, and I wasn't quite impressed with the tones that I was getting from it. So hopefully by pushing it, we should be able to increase that contrast. As you can see behind me here, there's this tree that's washed up onto the beach. I'm just going to have a little wander around with the Bilora Box and see if I can find a composition that I like. Found quite a nice composition here. I'm just going to use the cable release to make sure that I get no camera shake. So with this camera I've only got one shutter speed. It says online that it should be around a 50th of a second, but due to age I reckon it's probably more around the 30th of a second. I'm using f16 as my main aperture, and that should give me a nice depth of field in these images. I quite like this composition that I found here. The roots of the tree create a nice interesting subject in the foreground, and the seas coming up in the background, and it helps frame it quite nicely. Okay, so I quite like the scene I've came across here. The rocks lead out towards the post in the sea, marking the end of the rocks. And I think this will create quite an interesting composition using this Bilora box. I'm going to shoot this one in portrait orientation, and I think that will help frame it in nicely either side. Now there is one thing I'm struggling with this camera. Using these small bright viewfinders, it's quite hard seeing how straight the horizon line is, and obviously with seascapes that's quite an important thing. Luckily I will be able to crop in post, as I've got such a big negative size. So I think this is quite an interesting shot. I'm not too sure on the composition, but I'd like to see what you think. I decided to run these rocks up on the left hand side of the frame, and the end of them should be roughly in the middle of the frame, and hopefully with that sort of misty background it helps create that nice ethereal image that I'm looking for. Okay, so that was the 7th frame with this Bilora box, so I've got one more left. I'm quite intrigued to see how well this composition came out. I decided to place the Bilora box just here in the foreground on these rocks. The pole's in the distance and the rocks should create quite a nice leading line running up to that. Of course, all of these rocks that are in the foreground are going to probably be out of focus, as this is just a simple meniscus lens. So let's see how well this one turned out. So that was the last frame of this Bilora box today. I decided to frame up the post in the centre again in the background, and hopefully that leading line of the rocks runs up along the right hand side of the frame, creating an interesting seascape. So I hope that you enjoyed this video today with the Bilora box, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.